All right, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Adam, how you doing, man?
Live and in action. I'm doing well.
It's good to see. Good to
Great,
see you.
great to see you as well. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I know that it's been just so much fun doing work together, serving mutual clients. By the way, in our Pitch Pro Movement, the membership group that I run, there was a whole discussion on SumoQuote today. In fact, I said, who's using SumoQuote? And there was a lot of hype threads in there of people sharing their stories, and I was letting them know that we were jumping on today. So I'm doing awesome. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. It's a great time of year because again, on the roofing side, like we've got our roofing company going and it just feels like we've gotten out of winter and we can finally just get humming again. So it always feels good. Man, this is great. People are jumping in the chat.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody in there. Where's everybody from here today? Let's see where we've got people from.
Let's get a state pulse check. I'm tuning in from Colorado. I'll throw mine in the chat also.
Well, and I'm hoping we got a few Canadians on here, not just hosting it from here, but yeah, I'm up in Calgary, Canada here, which is great.
Tulsa, Wisconsin, where I started selling. Tulsa, I was there yesterday for an event. In fact, Columbus, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. Oh, we're like hitting the whole U.S. Hey, Steven, said met Adam yesterday. Great seeing you there. Appreciate it, man.
Oh, it's awesome. Well, yeah, why don't we, Adam, we got a lot to cover here today. So why don't we dive into it so that we're not burning it and trying to shorten it at the end here. Yeah. It seems like this is a topic that people are pretty excited to check out. This whole concept of how a salesperson sold over $8 million in 1 year. And actually it was two salespeople. Each sold over $8 million in 1 year with our roofing company here, which was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Oh, it's fun. It was fun to see. So yeah, let's start off and get going here. But Adam, I'm sure everybody knows you, but why don't you start off by introducing yourself here?
Yeah, by the way, I've learned that you never make that assumption because I made a fool of myself before. So welcome everybody, or welcome back. Adam Bensman here, the Roof Strategist, host of the Roof Strategist YouTube channel and podcast, the most followed in our industry, former chief operating officer of a company operating in 5 states and 6 cities, and creator of the Roofing Sales Success Formula, which is an all-in-one sales system for both storm and retail that's currently being used by many thousands of people in every state in the US for both storm and retail, by the way, Canada, Australia, and even Sweden. And I'm a speaker, sales trainer, and Owens Corning's latest sales training partner. That's the fast version. We'll stop there.
No, that's great, man. And you and I have crossed paths a number of times over the years. And I can say from our side, or from my side here, I've always been impressed at the level of professionalism that you bring. And actually, not just professionalism. And our director of sales and marketing here, Brandon was commenting. He's just like, man, I saw some of Adam's stuff. Like, it is solid sales stuff. Like, it is whatever you're selling, it is on point. But frankly, I've appreciated the level of integrity and character that you look to bring to the industry all the time. That's something that we really value in our partners. And so just to say it here, like, I really value who you have been in the industry and how you've carried yourself. So thank you for all of that as well.
I appreciate the kind words.
Absolutely. Yeah, my name's Ryan. I'm the CEO of SumoQuote. I'm also a partner over at Epic Roofing Exteriors. I am out of the day-to-day operations there. I've got 1 meeting a week that we have sort of as an executive team that oversees our group of companies. And this is really a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is based off of the success that we've seen with our residential division there and how we've managed storms as they've hit us, because we get some good ones through Calgary here, and then we'll get a couple of years where it's dry and we've got to be heavy retail, but the size of operation that we are with 150 employees or so, you can't just go from 35 million down to 15 million and not have processes and systems in place in order to, and not that we've dropped, that far or anything, but you've got to be able to scale up, and then you've got to be able to understand how to manage a large business without the insurance volume coming through as well. But before we get going here, I'm curious, I'd love to know, we've got piles of contractors on here. Are people doing retail, insurance? What's the split? Are you 50-50, 80-20? Like, what are people, sort of the volumes that they're doing on either side there, because that's really critical stuff, your storm retail ratio. Taylor's 80-20 insurance, 90-20, love it.
Anoop's math is as good as my math.
Well, he's doing 110% all the time, so that's
great.
great.
I love it.
Bunch of retail. Okay, so we're pretty evenly split here. We're maybe leaning a little bit on the insurance side with some of this, it seems like. And a lot of these concepts, whether it's retail or insurance, we're going to speak to a lot of insurance stuff today. But those that want to be able to capture a storm when it comes along, be a storm catcher rather than a storm chaser, there's a lot of good stuff for retail. And then we're going to, be able to show you how you can scale and adjust to a storm as well. So, Adam, you ready to go?
Ready to rock.
Let's dive in. Okay, so we're really going to be talking about this concept today of mastering scale. And so I put this diagram together, and this really summarizes things. Is ultimately, we care deeply about the customer experience. And so we're always thinking what the customer experience is going to be, how we can communicate well with them, how we can give them a clear process and clear understanding, then, how we can educate them. The easier we can make it for them with this, we just see our leads go up, our referrals go up, our win rates go up. Everything just increases when you think about the customer with it. But at the end of the day, there's kind of these three main components, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's going to be lead generation, and then it's going to be documentation, and then it's going to be sales. And we're going to sort of deep dive on those and what those mean and how we adjust our process and go through things with that. So I know this is kind of looking like it's leads, sales, documentation. That's just because documentation wouldn't fit nicely on the right there. So leads, then documentation, then sales. So, but before we hit that, I want to touch on this concept of customer experience. There was a poll done with Fortune 100 executives, and the poll was saying, what are you going to be focusing on as a business over the next 3 years or the next 5 years? And the reason I bring this up is because, these are good business concepts, whatever industry you're in. And so they did this. There was three things, right? The main three things were pricing, product, and customer experience. So pricing, I'm assuming nobody wants to be the lowest price out there. That's just not any of our goals if we're going to run a profitable business. So trying to, prioritize in business our pricing. Yeah, we want to have good pricing, be efficient with it, but we don't want to drive a race to the bottom. Product, at the end of the day, we all have access to the same shingles. And so it's hard to differentiate purely on product, right? Really, that leaves us with customer experience as being the main driver for how we can grow and scale our business. So I just want to make sure we all really understand how critical and important customer experience is. Adam, what have you seen on the customer experience side as far as homeowners' reactions to it, how, different things that contractors have brought to it, or how you just envision customer experience in general?
It's number one. I mean, my value statement is our mission statement is to help you smash your income goal and give every customer an amazing experience. And in fact, when I spoke at the Owens Corning Platinum Conference, my entire presentation was about differentiating ourselves in the house. And when you mentioned that we're all using the same product, all of you, my friends who are on here that may be competitors, I do believe there's enough work to go around. We're all shopping in the same pool, in the analogy of the NFL. The NFL is recruiting from the same pool of talent, playing by the same set of rules, with access to the same resources, the same sports therapist, the same psychology, and the same game tape. And what boils down to be the winning factor of how we truly differentiate is to a combination of two things: the emotional experience and the comparison. We win the emotional experience and we win the comparison because you're ranked whether you're first or last. And at the end of the day, that equates to a customer experience, and that's what wins business. And I've watched people that outwin against folks that are using the latest tech, the greatest presentation, because they're falling short on the customer experience, specifically the emotional experience that they create and the comparison of how they stack up. So I couldn't agree anymore.
Yeah. I know you've read a book. One of the guys that I love out there, it's a guy named Donald Miller, wrote the book Building a Story Brand. His concept is if you confuse, you lose. And so being able to, a lot of the stuff we're going to go through here, that's going to be how can you make sure it is clearly communicated, that the homeowner, there is no question in their mind what the next step is, what is going on, how all of this is happening. So, from there, I guess let's just keep going through this. So we've touched on customer experience, leads. I put together kind of a list of lead sources that we use as a company. Now, we've been in business for 20 some odd years, 22 years or something like that now. How I see them is there's direct leads, which is door knocking, customer referrals. There's then digital leads, which is SEO, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, email marketing. Like there's a whole digital strategy that you can have on that. And then from there, there's business development type leads. And that's with brokers, that's with adjusters, that's with property managers, that's directly with insurance companies at times. And there's a whole other level there. But I'm curious, are there other lead sources out there, the ones that people are aware of? And then Adam, I'd love for you to just comment on, as you look at this list, how do you categorize and think about a list like this on how people are going about things these days as far as gathering leads?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I'd add to this. On the door knocking, customer referrals, I would add in self-generated leads, which would include cold calling, which is direct mail, which the strategies I teach that are killing it for guys. Something a sales rep can do, filling out an envelope, you're at a house, no one's home, you send a letter in the mail, personalized letter, specifically even for no soliciting signs. Those are fantastic resources. Digital, we've got social media that I would include in the digital front as well. And then on business development, I know, as crazy as it might sound, one of my primary lead sources on the BDR business development side was a home builder. And he would punt all of his roofs to me. I did his own roof. He sent me 4 100 square townhouses that he owned. I did every roof of the houses that he was building. I did roofs of all the remodels. And then he quickly, it was about 2 years of just gravy. And then he figured out how to run a roofing division himself. I'm like, why didn't you do this? I don't know how you're subbing a GC, but that's great. So those referral relationships, PDR, paintless dent removal companies, things like that are fantastic resources. So those are just a few that I would add in there.
Yeah, no, those are great. And this certainly isn't an exhaustive list. I think the interesting part here is, I think as contractors, we're typically, the newer the business we are, we kind of start top down, right? Because at the top there's not a cash outlay to it. It's not like you're burning cash going through pay-per-click stuff. I love that you mentioned social. That's a great one. So yeah, like those are, it feels like as you mature as a business, you kind of go top down, and ultimately you really have to be doing all of them. Like, again, if you're going to be a sustainable business at, a certain size, you have to have lead volume. And then it really is getting to the point where you've got all of these as you're going through it.
Yeah.
So
you start at the top because there's virtually no cost.
Well, that's it. There's no cash that you're putting out for it. It's your time, right? Like, and it's your business, and that's just, it's what you do to get going. And then because that strategy, that feels like a comfortable way to scale and add more people to that strategy. And then as you mature as a business more, then you start to sort of continue to go down this. But at the end of the day, kind of driving it back to the title of the presentation, if we're talking about somebody getting to $8 million, we didn't do it through door knocking. We had piles of lead generation tools going on that was all driving leads into the system in order to start actually being able to give them the type of volume that they could execute to get to something like that. So through all this, just wanting to make sure that we're transparent with the expectations and stuff. Like, it takes a while to get to this stuff, but these are the tools and the ways that we're leaning into this in order to get there.
Ryan, if I may, I think the thing that everyone's thinking, because by the way, team who's joining us, I'm referring to everyone in our webinar today as a team. Number one limiting factor on sales, is it time or your capability of selling? I'd love to hear it in the chat. Time or capability? Because as these, I'm gonna jump the gun, because I'm gonna guess that in the chat people are gonna say time. And thank you, Alicio and Katrina and Taylor. And Taylor, by the way, great to see you here. Diana, John, I'll say time. And people are probably wondering, how in the world does someone have the time to do this? And really, the mystery, the secret sauce behind what you're about to lay out with the sales process is exactly the cure to the number one bottleneck. So I'm going to shut up now so we can keep rocking and rolling, because I think that's going to get people really excited up. If I had time, I'd sell 2 million a year with no storm. Agreed. Or more. Rock and roll. Let's hit it.
Oh, I love it. And I mean, that's from a good friend of mine here, which is great. But I mean, time, yes, all of this is about, you start with time, the door knocking, and then as you go through there, it's got to be process systems. It's got to be, how does it go away from your time being the limiting factor? And what are the levers that you can pull? And so that's where I'm going to try and, pull back the veil a little bit on how we did it as a business and show you how we were able to leverage not the salesperson's time in order to achieve this, but all the other tools behind it as we keep going. Adam, one of the things here is we talk about leads and door knocking and stuff like that, or however the lead comes in. It's the concept of, this is the stage where the consideration around a contingency agreement should come into the conversation. So I'm going to throw this over to you, because I know you got a few tips here on this concept, but talk to us about contingency agreements.
I want to get a poll from the team here. Contingency agreement, yes or no? Are you using them or not? Just type in yes or no. This belief that I share is not. So John, I appreciate that. I like that you broke the mold and did sometimes, because I was hoping people would say that. Sometimes. Brooke also says sometimes, and I see a lot of it. So John says no, Anoop says yes. We're not using them, says Tanya, but we feel like it's a must. So you can see it's relatively split. Thaddeus says no. There's a lot of sometimes. And I want to challenge people, and I just want to do a quick disclaimer here. When I challenge beliefs, this is not to belittle anybody. It's simply to open our minds to a different perspective. Doug says my lawyer says not. Doug, I've learned to seldom trust my lawyer. My lawyer said the contingency agreement should be 9 pages long, and I said it's a sales tool. We'll make it 2 because they're not enforceable anyway. By the way, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give legal advice. You should listen to your lawyer. That's the best advice I can give you. Listen to your lawyer. So let me explain why I believe that contingency agreements are a must. And must is a strong word. Many people, and I went down this road as well. I said, I'm going to differentiate myself by not using them, because people are using them in most, I know it's a strong statement, I believe most people use them incorrectly. And most contractors position them as it's an ego thing. I need this so I can help you, me. And it comes across in a very ego-driven way that, again, if we're looking at customer experience, it's not about the customer, it's about us. Then salespeople who have not had adequate instruction or training, they are apprehensive to bring it up. So it comes across as pushy, salesy, or sleazy, and it leads to resistance. And people have this hesitation and say, well, the contingency agreement is going to lose me a deal. So then I tried the other approach of not using a contingency agreement, using a handshake deal. And a guy that he was one of the top guys at our company selling, he said, oh man, I do the handshake deal and I do Scout's Honor. And like, for some reason, the Scout's Honor will seal it in blood. So one time I did this handshake deal and I literally tried the Scout's Honor thing. The adjuster shows up 2 hours late. Okay. Guy wouldn't sign with me. He's like, no, we'll use you. Yeah. Monster home. Adjuster shows up 2 hours late. I'm sweating in my truck. He gets there. He was too large to get on the roof. He hands me the chalk, hands me the camera, says, go mark it up. I'm like, that's great. I get down. He looks at the pictures. He goes, great. I'm going to write it up. You can go tell the homeowner. Knock on the homeowner's door. Homeowner answers. I say, hey, man, great news. We got everything approved. So next step is just picking colors and having fun. And he looked at me, and all the joy of the handshake and Scout's Honor went out the window, and he goes, great. Now give me your estimate. He slammed the door in my face. And for most people that I talk to who aren't using this, they're like, no, I don't have that much cancellation, but you don't know because there's nothing to cancel. And as reflection occurs, I find that people find that there's less deals that are inked because there's really nothing inked, but less deals that actually go through. So I sat down with a gentleman in Texas, is in Dallas, Texas, who had the same belief. He used the sometimes approach or the no approach. And I walked through with him how I present the contingency agreement as, again, about the customer experience and the value it brings to them. So instead of them saying, I don't want to sign this, they say, oh, I see how this helps me. And when I repositioned that for this gentleman in, what was it? I met with him on Thursday. By Monday, he had signed 6 deals. And he was in an area in Dallas with 80 plus square roofs. I have a testimonial from him. If anyone's seen me at Owens Corning events, it's in my presentation. And that was voluntarily sent out. So the other reason that I believe in a contingency agreement is it sets the power dynamic of the relationship off the right way out of the gate. We're the expert and they need us. If we don't establish that relationship up front, they have absolutely no need for us whatsoever. We're useless. And in my opinion, it's devaluing you because you, my friend, are working for free. And I don't work for free. So that's one of the reasons of the many, I shouldn't say one, I laid out quite a few, that I believe a contingency agreement is an absolute must.
Yeah. Now, I love that you talked about being able to establish yourself as the expert and sort of laying that out. My assumption is, Adam, there's a lot more that goes into that than the contingency being the contingency is a tool and a symbol of something, but there is a lot more in your training that you would take people through on how to
Absolutely.
really solidify that position, give people the comfort of it, and show them that there's value that you're providing by you being with them as a part of that process.
Absolutely. And we'll even get into a bunch of that today. In the next couple tips that I've got, we'll break that down. But yes, in my sales system, I break down how the rep is going to present the contingency agreement, first is transitioning to it, and so on. So we'll get there.
Well, let's keep going then. So you talked about this concept of using the homeowner to actually have them show you the damage on their home. I'm curious about this because I haven't heard this before. So I'm kind of wondering what you've got up your sleeve with this one.
This is my secret sauce that I've found has been truly game changing. I want to use this as an example. I'm going to put myself in the hot seat here. So I quit drinking alcohol about 5 years ago. I realized I was an alcoholic. And I remember prior to quitting drinking, and I wanted to stop drinking since I was 19 years old. It's 10:30 in the morning. I'm at the family reunion. We're at the lake house. My uncle's got this lake house. And I'm partying with my cousins. We get out on the boat. It's 10:30. Pop my Corona, got my lime. And my mom looks at me and she's like, honey, it's 10:30 in the morning. And I'm like, Mom, you be quiet now. I love you. But like, when you go back in the fridge, there's some more Coronas and I already pre-cut the limes. They're in the fridge. And my cousins and I are sitting there like, oh, your mom's a buzzkill. And I'm like, Mom, I'm a roofer. I'm under a tremendous amount of stress. This is how we drink. Like, this is how we have some fun. And I'm not going to lie, I got pissed at her. I was frustrated. I was like, you're dissing me. And it wasn't until years later that I didn't make that change until I took ownership of the problem. So how does alcoholism have to do with roofing? Quite a lot. Let me explain. When someone told me I had a drinking problem, I wanted to punch him in the face. Screw you. No one in the world likes to be told they have a problem. That's a strong statement. I'm sure there's a few people who like to be told that. But is it safe to say that majority of people, they don't like to be told they have a problem?
Safe to say.
Yeah. You're not going to walk up to your buddy that needs to quit drinking and be like, hey, dude, I think you're an alcoholic. He's going to punch you. What needs to happen is that person, like I had to take ownership of my problem to make a change. And due to the fact that people do not want to buy a roof, and most people don't realize they have a problem with the roof when it comes to a storm damage claim, especially in areas, by the way, Doug and Taylor, congrats, my friends. They don't want to take action on something if they don't take ownership of the problem. So if I show up and I offer my free inspection and my logo says I sell roofs, because that's what all of our logos say to homeowners, and I'm like, hey, you have a free inspection. Oh, gee golly, the I sell roofs guy offers me a free inspection and then tells me that I have damage. And because we are so blind to the first time we saw a roof get approved, and I'm sharing this for my hail friends. Do you remember the first time you saw a roof get approved for hail damage outside of the big hail in Texas? You're like, wait, that little black dot, they're going to replace the roof for that? And we forget how it feels to be like, what? This is my job now? So what we need to do is get the homeowner to take ownership of the problem. So here's how we do that. In order for that homeowner to metaphorically admit to being an alcoholic, which I can say this stuff because I am one, right? But they're not actually an alcoholic. To get them to take ownership of the problem is the only way that they're going to make a change and want a solution. So the way I do it is when I get off the roof, I have my phone wherever I've taken pictures and I say, hey, where's a good spot for us to sit down out of the sun so you can see my screen? We'll go through everything. Or out of the wind, out of the cold, out of the heat, so you're comfortable, whatever. They invite you wherever they're comfortable, inside the house, the back porch, the front porch, doesn't matter. That's the way they've marked their position. They're in control. Then we're sitting down and I'm going to sit right next to them. Just like you, I'll be like, all right, so before I share these photos with you, because I want transparency so they can see everything, I want to explain 3 things. First, I want to explain what storm damage is and what we look for. Now what I've done is I've used framing. This is a powerful technique, and I'm going to take a quick sidebar, if it's okay, to explain how framing works. I went to a college party once, and I brought a bottle of 10 High whiskey. For those that are unfamiliar, 10 High whiskey is virtually paint thinner, non-drinkable, but you can drink it. You just probably shouldn't. And I poured it into a mason jar. I realize this is a coffee mug, but imagine a mason jar, because hipsters love that stuff. So put it in this mason jar, and I bring it to this party, and I go up to someone. This is a prank, by the way. And I said, hey, listen, my buddy, my uncle runs a small batch distillery, and he made 6 cases of this bourbon. It's like $600 a bottle. Do you want to try some? And they screw the cap off, and they go, man, that's good. We had 20 people in a row do that. I had one guy that caught it, and he was more professional than I was, and he had a trust fund, so he drank real good stuff. But the point is what comes before the experience is the lens, creates the frame of how they're going to experience it. So that's why I'm using framing. Say, hey, before I share these photos, I want to explain what storm damage is and what we look for. Number 2, I want to explain why the insurance company covers it. So now I'm overcoming the objection proactively. If it doesn't look that bad, I don't want to file a claim. And then number 3, I want to explain why homeowners just like you decide to do something about it, meaning it's NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, getting them to make a decision about it and validating that by using the fact that the price of roofing is doubling every 5 years. And if they don't make a claim and then the lifespan of the roof is compromised, that $20,000 roof is now 40 grand, and they're going to be using their hard-earned money. Okay. Now I'm going to say, would you like to see what your roof looks like? And they're going to say yes. They have the context. They know that tiny little black spot, as opposed to that glance between homeowners, like, what are you talking? What? That little thing? You want me to replace my roof because of that? Now it makes sense to them. And then I say, hey, this is what your roof looks like. I'm going to ask, do you see what I see? And generally, they're going to say yes. If they said no, it's okay. It just means you did not the best job explaining, and you can re-explain and do better next time. And then you ask this one question. Tell me what you see. They then begin describing the damage to you. And I've watched this land into a jump close. I have a testimonial in my presentation. I actually have it pulled up, but I can't share my screen. And it says, my salesman used that technique of showing the damage. And the homeowner said, I see shingles missing here, 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 and there. And it resulted, the homeowner talked him and his wife into a sale, and it resulted in a $14,000 garage sale. It's a jump close. I see it. I need it. Tell me how. And that's how, again, before we bring up the contingency agreement, we use framing to get them describing the damage to you. Because you can't walk into the house and call a homeowner an alcoholic. You got to guide them there with some love and compassion. And that also creates an amazing customer experience and creates transparency in the process.
Well, I love it, man. I love that as you're going through it, again, at the end of the day, we're talking about emotions. We're talking about customers. We're talking about guiding them through that emotions and them understanding it and gaining confidence and trust in all of these things. And like your stories hit spot on as you go through that stuff. So yeah, I think it's great. Very interesting. Well, we've got one more hot tip from Adam here. How do you transition to the contingency then? Like, what does that process look for? You've talked to them, you've got them engaged, you've got them believing, and you're going through this, but now you're going to ask them to sign something. And man, that always feels awkward. That second you bring out the pen in hand, or however it looks, digital signature in these cases now these days, what does it look like to transition to the contingency?
I'm going to go through this relatively quick, but there's a lot to unpack. Okay. Yeah. But we're going to hit it as much as I can. Now, number 1, for many salespeople, we are afraid of the contingency agreement and bringing it up because this is where we might face rejection. It's where we may come across as salesy or pushy. So many good people who have good hearts like us just try to wiggle it in. And they're like, here's the damage. And by the way, here's how we can help. And it almost comes across as a bait and switch. And that homeowner is like, wait, everything was good. You're showing me the damage. And now there's this paperwork, contingency, service agreement, contract, whatever you guys call it. They get scared, and people need to know what happens next. And I'll prove it to you. Friends, have you ever predicted how a movie ends before it does? Chances are you have. Ryan, have you predicted how a movie ends?
I've tried. I've occasionally gotten it right. But yeah, your brain starts going ahead to what is coming up in the next steps and where's this going, sort of thing. Absolutely.
We need to know what's happening next. Same thing. Who's ordered something on Amazon Prime and then check shipping? Like, how
Absolutely.
crazy is that? You're giving Amazon your like $80 to $120 a year for an agreed service of 1 to 2 day, and then you check it. So we need to know what happens. So all I want to do is put that homeowner at ease and say, hey, now that you've seen the condition of your roof, which they described to me, I'm going to say, would you like to hear how I can help? That's what I call the transition pitch. Would
Nice.
you like to hear how I can help? At that moment, they say yes. They're expecting that this is going to come up now, and it softens that transition so it doesn't feel like a bait and switch. Smallest, easiest change that many people can make that will, in my opinion, increase the close rate. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to go through just 3 quick bullets. Number 1, I'm going to say, hey, before I get started, I just want you to know you can and you should use anyone that you like and that you trust to do your roof. And here's why. And then what we're doing is disarming them. You can use anyone you want, and then you should. So we're empowering their freedom of choice, because no one can force anyone to make a decision. If we did, we'd all be billionaires. And then we say, and here's why. And when we say, and here's why, this is our opportunity to isolate their biggest objection, which is money. And in the insurance claim world, it's the deductible, where we can overcome that objection. I don't have time for that today. Jump over to the Roof Strategist YouTube channel, type in the word deductible. I've done a million videos on breaking that down in detail for homeowners. Once we break down the money issue and the deductible, we've tackled their biggest objection up front. And then I say, as you work with us through our, as I see in the chat, service agreement, contingency, whatever you guys call it, I'm going to use framing again, because I don't necessarily want that homeowner to read every single word. The reason they do that is they don't trust you. So I'm going to use framing and say, hey, the way that we work together is through this service agreement or contingency agreement, and it states 3 things. First, it allows me to communicate the details of the repair with your insurance company, because as you can imagine, information is protected by law, and they're not just going to start talking to anybody about that. Number 2, this states that this is 100% contingent upon approval of your roof. So if the insurance company does not approve this, you're not bound to buy a roof from us, because that's one of their biggest concerns of risk. Okay. And number 3, it ensures, and this is what I use, this is the language I use that's in my program and in my marketing material, I call it our price lock guarantee. The biggest complaints about contractors, it took too long and there were surprise bills. So Mr. Homeowner, we do not bill you for the time, energy, and expertise to support you through that process. Again, building our value and showing that we do have time, energy, and expertise in this. Again, one of the reasons we need that contingency, or they don't see the value. And it ensures that there's going to be no surprises. So our price lock guarantees that your contribution will be your deductible, no more, no less, with the exception of, and then I'll read the fine print, ACV policy, code items that aren't included, elective upgrades, or rotted decking. And again, rotted decking, you can actually get paid for on claims at times. Topic for another day. Then I'll go through the contingency with them. But again, teeing it up is really the winning piece, so they know exactly what's coming and they don't feel the need to read every single line. And then we got a green light to punt it back over to Ryan and show him how to go through this whole deal and sign those projects up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so yeah, where we're going to go here, and I mean, Adam, I appreciate that, because contingencies can be confusing, awkward. There's a lot of thought that needs to go into that stuff. So I appreciate you breaking all that stuff out for us. On the SumoQuote side of things here, what we want to talk about here is we want to talk about the process and tools that we used in order to get to this $8 million number that we were talking about at the beginning, right? So I'm going to flip through what a contingency looks like in SumoQuote here, or can look like. And this really reinforces the stuff that Adam's talking about. It's about managing their emotions. It's about managing their expectations. It's about showing that you're professional and trustworthy. And so a nice cover page with their home on it is very impactful, because it feels customized to them. And this is their home that they care about, right? So going through this, rather than titling this as an introduction page, right? Maybe putting something like ensuring a perfect plan and process, letting them know that we will be the ones to help ensure that this goes perfectly for them through it. And then giving them sort of some of those details as you go through this. One of the things that Epic has built is we built a client video testimonials page. So on a PDF, as you're going through this, you can click on these homeowners with that little play button and actually watch videos of the homeowners saying how pleased they were, how great the process was, how detailed it was, just all of this stuff. Because the best thing after a direct referral from somebody you know is watching another human willing to take the time and energy to actually give praise and a referral to your business. That communicates trust in a powerful way. So this is the stage that you're going through this stuff. Um, we'll often use a page like the OC one here to talk about, hey, your adjuster, typically they come out, they look at your field shingles, they often miss all of the components. We're going to make sure we do a thorough inspection and make sure that you're getting like, kind, and quality through this. So again, you're creating value, as Adam talked about, expertise, all of these things. And then, we've got a marketing page here, the insurance project journey for the homeowner, and giving them this clear step-by-step of here is how we will work with you. So we will let you know when you're at this stage, moving to the next one. And now they're not just relying on, oh, I think they said something like this is coming up. They've got something in front of them to refer to. Everything becomes about guiding them, making sure that they're not confused, right? If you confuse, you lose. Back to Donald Miller there again. So you're just reinforcing this. And Adam, I think you commented when I showed you this the first time, you were like, oh man, standardized. You can roll this out to new people and know that they're not missing stuff along the way.
Yeah. Having a visual aid, especially, one of the big reasons that I'm a big fan of using a presentation has nothing to do with the presentation. It's controlling the dialogue and deliverables from the salesperson. I've audited countless sales calls in person. I've sat there because I look like I'm 12 years old. I got ID'd buying a 0.0% Heineken the other day at the liquor store. Like, it's carbonated water. I'm 36. I got ID'd, but I got to use this in my advantage because I was the youngest person at the company training guys my dad's age. So even when I was COO, I'd be a little helper. I'd watch the appointments unfold. And I've now done this all over the country. I've done this over Zoom. And without the standard process for the team to follow, they go off the rails or homeowners take them off the rails. So I when you first showed this to me, I was like, oh, I love this. It like removes the mystery. It hits the right talking points in the right order, because sales is really more of like a lock and key game rather than a talk your way through it and hope it works this time. And I just love that. And the one thing I do want to add, Ryan, that when you, even as little of a detail as it seems, to put a photo of the homeowner's home on the contingency, one of the most powerful driving factors in decisions and sales decisions is the comparison of how this contractor compares to competitor 1, 2, 3, or 17, depending on if you're in Texas, and one in Dallas or something in a really competitive market. So if everyone's pushing this little piece of paper, hey, sign this, and then you bust this out with a visually stunning design that's been custom tailored to them, all of a sudden on the comparison scale where you rank, that's as obvious as it gets. Like, you showed up with the Mercedes when the other dude's selling the rusted out Honda Civic.
Well, there's so many things behind that then, right? It's, one, when you're looking at that, it's like, well, if they put this kind of craftsmanship into their contingency, just their contingency agreement, imagine the craftsmanship I'm going to get with the actual project itself, right? There's an implication of what you are getting there. Two, back to that Donald Miller side, like he talks about, you got to be honest with yourself. The homeowners don't care about your business. They just don't. They care about themselves. They care about their home. And so if you can position them as the hero of the story by putting their home on the cover, this is a story about you as we go through this and how you're going to be cared. Like, that's really powerful stuff as you go through. So, here, as we keep going here, inspection photos. Like, if you cannot get it signed with the homeowner right there, the fact that you've got to leave behind like this for them to take their spouse through is unbelievable. Like, it's not just that I couldn't get them signed right there, so I never win it after that. The volume of stuff that will come through because you can have something that you leave behind like this. There's all sorts of wording that you can put in. You see the contingency agreement on the right side of your screen here. This is, kind of some placeholder stuff that we put in, but it's we're going to complete repairs on your property as laid out in your insurance estimate. Your authorization will apply should the total value change as directed by your adjuster. Supplements, right? Here, to Adam's point, we're talking about the responsibilities of our company. How are we adding value? How are we going to be the experts for you? How are we going to? And this is then ultimately leading to, hey, our price for you today is $0, but we believe that we can get this approved for you. and we're willing to invest our time, money, resources. Like, it's very costly for us to start doing this for you. There's a cost to us as soon as you sign this. We're convinced, though, that we can help work with you through this, and we just want to get paid knowing that we can do the work at the end. That's what we enjoy doing. We enjoy roofing, we enjoy siding. That's how we want to make our money. We're not trying to get dollars out of you as your consultant, even though that's really what we're going to be with something like this. Yeah. So being able to layer that in a standardized way, even if Adam, I'm sure would, give a few tweaks to this, that would be super helpful. But like, it really powerful to have a standardized system for your salespeople to go through. So, and then obviously a signing page, they can put in their insurance details, their claim number, date of loss, all this stuff, all sorts of stuff you can customize. A warranty, if you want to reinforce to them, we will be here with you and stuff like that. And then at the end of the day, SumoQuote actually has a lot of signing features. So you'll see on the right side, there's additional signature locations. If we go sort of over here, we've got an initial location. We've got their name auto-generated in here. We've got their address auto-generated in here. Like, there is a lot of additional signing stuff that you can do to please all the lawyers out there and stuff like that, that you can do in SumoQuote. So wanted to make sure we kind of touched on the contingency side of things here. Adam, we got to keep blazing along here because there's a lot of stuff for us to cover still.
Always. So, we can terms and conditions, ignore that. Let your lawyer write it. It doesn't, let your lawyer write it. I actually do mean that. And then move on.
Terms and conditions doesn't sell a job. I'm not going to sit there and read through the terms and conditions with them. But, okay, so in us getting people to that $8 million, okay? And again, multiple people with that, which was really fun to see. After we got the leads, then it came in. Well, now what we need to do with these leads is we want to get all of the data. We want to get all of the, know what the damage is, get the photos, get the measurements, get the, matching colors for metals and sidings and all of that stuff, right? So then what we do is we've got a team member that's an admin member in our office that puts together pre-built routes. So they put together routes so that you can fly through it and you just go bang, 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 bang. You hit 10 all in the same street almost one day sometimes, right? We also have a company brochure that we put together. And I'll show you guys what that looks like to give you an idea of what you could build or how you could do some of that stuff. From there, now we've got a scoper or an inspector. And this whole concept is around our salesperson. They can do everything start to finish, right? They could answer the phone if you wanted them to. They could go out and do the inspection. They could do that damage. They could write it up. They could do everything here start to finish. They are the least scalable person in your business. They are true experts that you need. And so what we are doing here is we're finding people that don't need to be experts at everything, but can just do something really good and take a burden off of the salesperson to make them more efficient. And typically these are, so our scopers or inspectors tend to be, we subcontract our steep slope and our siding. We have in-house for our gutters, for all our metal installs with fascia and gutters and downs and everything. So we'll take them because they're the last trade to get busy. We'll train them on how to document the property. So they will get a route. They will go out there. They will have their clean golf shirt on. They will go knock on the door. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. I'm Ryan from Epic Roofing. I'm here today to document all the damages on your property. We appreciate you reaching out. Here's a brochure so that you can, learn more on our company, understand the process. You should expect to hear from your sales consultant in the next couple of days. And, then we'll follow up and continue along with the process for you. So that person is going out there, they're doing the introduction, they're giving the company brochure, they're documenting with photos, scope of work, measurements, they're gathering all of the information. But again, it is all about getting work off of your most important people, your salespeople that can do everything start to finish with it. So that is that, Adam. It's great, right? Again, it's the time bottleneck, right? How are you managing the time bottleneck with things?
Everyone needs to just really let this sink in, because this, literally, Adam likes this, taking notes. I was taking notes right there, because this whole piece, if time is the number one bottleneck, what Ryan just showed you is how to free up and leverage the salesperson's time onto what is most valuable, which is selling. Super fast version, with our sales team in the very beginning, they ran everything cradle to grave. I peeled away production. And when I peeled away production, it had to come with a reduction in commission because obviously we had to fund a production department, team, trucks, runners, all that stuff. I sat down with our team. I said, what percentage of your time do you spend on fulfillment? So you sell a customer and you got to service them. I heard between 50 and 75% of my time. So I'm like, okay, if I could nearly double your time in exchange for a 5% reduction in commission, would that be fair? Everyone's like, let's do that right now. And my lowest performing sales rep became #1 that month because he was just bogged down in all the processing. So when you follow this route, even as simple as it is, because Ryan just distilled this into just the simplest concept, you end up leveraging your highest talent and feeding the machine where they can sit on Zoom and close deals like this with all the tools at their disposal, especially with a visual presentation, which is absolutely mission critical. And that's the biggest obstacle keeping people from going remote online is I need a visual, because talking your way through a sale on Zoom is not the same as in person. You need visual aids. Ryan, I just needed to have that plug. Back to you.
No, I love it. I appreciate that, man. Well, and I wanted to share with people sort of, here's the brochure, just so that we keep giving as much good content and value to you guys as we can. Here's the brochure that we actually go through. So a nice cover page, sort of a little bit bigger than a postcard size. Flip it open. We're conveying to them our level of professionalism and expertise here again. Like, we just keep hammering this at every touch point that we can as we go through things. We personalize it with a photo of our founder and a letter from him. We go through again, how do we measure and compare to other contractors out there that you might be considering? So we've got something called our How to Compare Contractors. And we're obviously doing this where we're heavy tilted to look amazing, right? How many years have we been in business? Over 20. How many projects have we done? Over 40,000, right? Like, we have a full-time safety officer. Does it mean that you can't be safe if you don't have one? No, but we've got 150 people. So we've got multiple safety officers. So it's kind of, like grandma used to say, well, if you got it, flaunt it, right? So you want to talk about these things that differentiate you, right? So, and then we're going through and we start planting seeds for the upgrades, because upgrades is just such free money and great revenue to come in. So then we're talking about duration flex, some of the different components here. If they don't have drip edge, we're going to, upsell them on that as we go through Valley Metal and stuff like this, giving them some color options so that they know that they're preparing to get ready to sign this with us and they've got everything they need at their fingertips. And then at the end of it, again, personalizing again, just being like, hey, we're good people. At the end of the day, like, we give back, and we give back a lot of money because there's other stuff that we care about in life than just making money. So, there's a whole personalized side to this. So this is the style brochure or marketing collateral that we drop off at every job. And it's just another one of those touch points as we go through. So, okay, sales. We've gone out there. We've documented things. We know the measurements. We know what's damaged. We've ordered our Eagle View. We've got colors. And by the way, I'm gonna pause, and this is kind of a reflection back again. When somebody goes out to document that property, it is precision how they document it. So they start with a beautiful picture of the front of the house. They go around, get all their ground photos, and look for damage everywhere around. When they're going onto the roof, they go up the ladder. There's 4 photos at the top of the ladder. The pitch, is there drip edge or not? Metal color swatch match, so that we've got that. And then the tape measure on the soffit, so that we've got measurement. And if we need to do a full metal upgrade on everything, we've got that. But you need to get the exact same things every single time. And then the people in the office, it's like they've been there because they've gone out and climbed hundreds of roofs and they've documented it the exact same ways. So if they're looking through the exact same visual from people in the exact same way, it is just like you've been on every single property if you go through it and do that stuff. So Adam, I'm assuming you guys and your teams have done very similar things on like that documentation side and how critical that stuff is.
Documentation makes people trust you. It's transparency. The #1 complaint about contractors in general is communication. And if you show that you're just like trying to go from your memory, thinking through things, it doesn't set a very professional benchmark. And especially if you're coming in the house second or third, and the one guy's running around and rolls out of his truck with McDonald's wrappers in the dashboard, and he's trying to remember who he talked to when. And he's sketching everything out on a piece of paper, and then you show up and you have everything documented in a clear and concise fashion, and you're organized. Yeah, the comparison creature within us is what makes those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's keep going here. So we've documented, comes back into the office. When we are slammed busy and going like this, we hire business students from the university, and we try to hire them in year one because we know we got them for 4 years then. So we train them in that first year, and we got them every summer after that, and they just come in and we train them in Xactimate, and we train them in SumoQuote. So they look at what's the scope that's been documented from the inspector. They've got the list of damages, they've got the measurements, they've got everything validated. They go through, they build everything in Xactimate and SumoQuote. Now they've taken another thing off of the plates of the salespeople. So now it goes to the salesperson. And now finally, the salesperson, who is the true expert in our business, now they review it to make sure that everything's included on there. And we obviously want everything we can get on there and to be fair and accurate in everything that we do, so we've got a high degree of trust with adjusters and people that we're working with and communicating with. And then we go through, and now that salesperson, now they're just working with the adjuster and the homeowner, and they're just getting things approved and moving through. And there's just a pipeline there. That's not just get it confirmed and get a signature and you're done. Like that, there can be a process and some time there as well. But man, when you queue it up so that they've got everything taken care of for them, and then they can just do what they're true experts at. And I'm going to take you through a sample right now of what that looks like from SumoQuote that they used to close the deal there. This is what has really enabled us to sort of crush these numbers at the end of the day. So again, here's our insurance contract, right? So here's the customer's house, right? Now this introduction, and we're going to send this out to everyone. So you've got this sample. Now we're likely talking about, hey, as we are preparing to begin repairs for your home, we want to remind you of the next steps of the process. And we're taking them through this. So again, we're making sure that they're not questioning things, they're not confused. We're making sure we're managing their expectations. Now, because they're going to be a customer of ours, because they're signing this right now, now we're talking about a referral program because their neighbor's place is probably damaged. So now we're trying to draw them in with some of those things. Now we're talking about the shingle and what we're going to be installing and the value of the shingle and how it's different and stuff, right? We're reminding them of that customer journey again, right? We keep going back because we want to avoid any confusion through the whole process as we go. Here is our final authorization we go through here. And we've laid this out just based off of feedback from a bunch of our contractors and how it's been really powerful for them to use SumoQuote. Here is what we've done, right? So we've got our RCV here, right? And we're clearly laying that out. We've got our ACV, and then we've got our final payment. And obviously all of this can be edited how you want to do it, but we found this more clearly articulates. So the RCV being your total cost, we're saying 20 grand in this case. The ACV being 18 grand, and then they've got 2 grand, call it deductible or depreciation, whatever it is, and these numbers can change. But really the contract value that we're talking about is 20 grand. So it gives, now, for those of you that use SumoQuote right now, we are putting this 20 grand was put in as the unit cost, and we're showing the unit price. So the quantity is 0. We're showing the unit price. We're not showing the line total. The ACV, then we're going quantity 1 and whatever the ACV value is for the unit price, and then quantity 1 on the final payment and what the that dollar value is. So then we're able to not have this calculate up and have the 20 plus 18 plus 2 equal 40. So we're using our unit prices in there. And by the way, when you use SumoQuote, you get assigned a customer success manager. There might be piles of people on this call here that don't realize they have access to a customer success manager. That's like your personal concierge. If you see stuff that you like here, you can reach out to your CSM. They will meet with you. They will load stuff in your account. They will set stuff up for you. They are your people to help you get the most value that you can out of SumoQuote. So we'll make sure we get this out to people afterwards as well and stuff like this. But you go through with all the contract details. Here is another big one here that we do with our business. So obviously we're selling upgrades, and this is like people that aren't selling upgrades are just giving away free money. But we have found as a business, a lot of the time in that scope of work, there's stuff on there we don't want to do, frankly, right? There's painting the deck, maybe a garage door, whatever it is. We don't get enough margin to care about that stuff. And all it does is slow down our accounts receivable. So we got to cash flow that business longer, depending on how we're taking payments and stuff like that. We will use this right here. So we will go credit for not completing line items 14, 15, and 21. Quantity 1, negative $3,178, whatever it is. So as you're talking to the homeowner, you're saying, hey, look, we're not going to waive your deductible for you, but we'll help you cover it. And how we can help you cover it is, let's review the scope of work. Hey, I saw you had a teenage son or daughter as I was walking in here. Their arm does this, right? You know that $1,500 of painting that, you know, is $100 of actual paint? Why don't you get them to do that work for you? Easy thing. I'm not sure how it is regionally with certain people, but in Alberta, what we can say is, hey, that garage door that we got covered for you, that really only has a couple of little hits on it. You don't have to replace that, right? You can be paid out on that because there's no depreciation on it. So you can be paid out on it. If there's another storm, you can't claim that again. That's called insurance fraud. You are not allowed to do it, right? Ha ha, oh yeah, I would never do that. Sure, of course you wouldn't. But let me just remind you, that's called insurance fraud. So don't do it. But you cannot replace that garage door and use that towards these upgrades or use that towards your deductible. Again, we can do that in Alberta here. You would have to, know your local laws and stuff like that and how you could have those conversations. But man, it works well to be able to negotiate your scope of work with a credit, with a negative number that you can put there for them. So, and then really as I go through here, one of the additional things to show you is you can put in a payment schedule. So you can put in and have them initial, what their deductible is, what the ACV, if that's your deposit amount that you're going to collect from them, what the final payment is. Like, you can build something like this easily in SumoQuote in order to be able to present this to them, have them initial it, sign it. We've got all sorts of options and ways we can do it. This is just a really clean, easy way. It makes me kind of think back to, there was a company a few years ago. This was right when COVID was starting. So they signed up for us in March, right when all of a sudden the world shut down, right? And in May, we talked to them and things were not normal in May. Like, it was still chaos out there. And in May, we talked to them and they said, hey, like, things have been going great, FYI. We had budgeted pre-COVID that we were going to do $1.2 million in May. We sold over 2.4 million in May. And our top salesperson is just like, this is nuts. I wake up in the morning, I check my email, and I've literally got signed contracts just sitting there because I've sent it, like, I've talked to the homeowner and taken them through everything. But because I've been able to send them something that they can sign in their own time, I'm just getting signed contracts coming back at me like crazy. Like, it's amazing how we go through that. So, anyways, this is sort of that structure that we use to have our salespeople just close volumes of deals as they go through this stuff. So, I've got, and then we stitch in the exact. So, then it's all a single contract. Everything is referenced there, but this is almost more of an appendix because it tends to be a bit confusing. So we want SumoQuote to do all the selling and the picking of colors and the signing upgrades and the negotiating scope of work and everything else. But we don't want to send them over 10 attachments and have the Xactimate report be one, the quote be another, a brochure be another, photos be another, a copy of the liability insurance be another. Like, that's where SumoQuote is that brilliant piece to, like, really guide them through step by step as they go through it. So, yeah, Adam, I've been missing a bunch of chatter here, but I'm seeing a little bit on financing and stuff like this. What's going on? Have you been following this?
Yeah, I have been following this. So the big thing that people are wondering is, like, who do you use for financing? Which, by the way, there's a lot of great options out there, from Service Finance. There's Mosaic. There's some that I'm not a huge fan of. There's a new one called Credit Human that is low rates. But I think the big thing people are concerned about is dealer fees. And when you really factor in the dealer fee thing and you take a look at offering higher interest, lower dealer fees, it's actually better for the customer. And it allows you, as I believe it was James that put, that he chooses 10% or less dealer fees and then offers a 10% cash discount. So I think that the team handled it upon themselves, and the big votes for financing with Service Finance and Enhancify. But Ryan, this might be a good time just to chat about who integrates within SumoQuote, because one thing that I don't think we talked about today, unless I'm blind, was using adders and upsells, and how when integrating financing within SumoQuote, you have those options right there for taking that insurance deal, and then, hey, for just blank amount, you can upgrade. And then it becomes, again, a standard protocol and practice for the sales reps who notoriously are not consistent on the upsells. And being able to have all that in order for them to check a box, see the cash price, see the finance price, all within there would be really sharp. Did I overlook it?
No, it's all good. I was just going to go back here to show very
Yeah.
easy to show financing. And by the way, and again, if you've been a SumoQuote user for a long time, you may not realize you can show any financing company in SumoQuote. So we've got a direct integration with Sunlight. We've got a direct integration with Service Finance coming right around the corner here. It is largely built. But we created a way where you can drag and drop in their logo. You can just put in the plan, the rate, and the term. We're going to calculate everything for you, and we're going to let the homeowner sign off on financing stuff. And when you get into talking about upgrades, when you're talking about, high profile ridge cap for $14 a month, or ridge venting for $11 a month, like those are just such easy numbers to add on top of stuff. So yes, there is a way, again, whether it's through your CSMs or just reaching out to support at sumoquote.com. You can very, very quickly add any financing company, present their brand, present the options, and do all that in SumoQuote. So easy to do. Adam, the last thing I want to touch on here, because there is a difference in, like I would say, if you want your highest close rates, in person is always best. But people like virtual more and more these days, and they're comfortable with it. And so I wanted to talk about just one tool here quickly at the end that makes it so easy. Calendly is great, where you can set it up to say to the homeowner, well, you pick your option. What do you want? Do you want an in-home meeting? I'm happy to show up there, bring samples, have everything ready to go so we can get this signed and answer all your questions. Or we can do a virtual meeting. Totally up to you. And with Calendly, if it's an in-home, you can automatically have it block off 20 minutes or a half hour before the meeting for travel time. Like there's all sorts of amazing stuff that you can do by offering it. And if you are making it convenient to the homeowner, you are going to win more work. Like it is just a fact that by making it easy to do for them, it's just going to result in them signing more deals at the end of the day with you. This is a bit of this. There is, and I know I saw a post by Adam Sand out there, big process guy, great friend of SumoQuote and stuff like that. And Adam was talking about, hey, like this concept of inside and outside sales, this is a concept that is only going to grow, and you need to figure out how to accommodate it or figure out how you're going to position yourself within it, because there's some really powerful ways that you can do this stuff. So not to try and lobby for one way over another with it. Although again, if you're sitting at the kitchen table, I think statistically it is your greatest chance of signing that contingency or that insurance contract. I think that's a hard one to argue with, but man, there's ways that you can push volume or engage leads that otherwise would disappear by offering some of these other things along the way as well. So I wanted to make sure I touched on that. Adam, you've got some stuff that if people want to learn more about your program, that you can offer and connect with people on here.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll keep this real brief. If anyone is interested in learning more about, and you like the sales philosophy that I shared here, you'll probably love what's inside. And I have the full sales system for both storm and retail. It can get your team trained up in a lightning fast 9.5 hours from knock to close. I had one gentleman literally sign 8 deals on day 1 leaving training. 2, we're going to arm your team with all the material they need to self-generate more leads, including step-by-step instructions and a library of material they just click print for door-to-door strategies, canvassing what to say, direct mail letters, door hanger letters, material for churches, apartments, you name it, HOAs, everything is in there. The last thing we're going to do is train your team to close sales confidently in the home by authentically being themselves without feeling sleazy, salesy, or pushy. So if you're interested, you can text demo to that number, 303-222-7133. And we also use Calendly, but you'll fill out that quick form and pick a time for your demo. You can see and decide for yourself. And the last thing I'll say is this: I put my money where my mouth is, and I want my people to be happy. I offer a 30-day no BS money back guarantee. So if you guys get in there and it's not for you, you just email me, we buy it back from you. It's that simple. And I did put a link in the chat as well. And Jason said our closing rate improved by 40% using our system. Jason, that's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that in the chat. I'm truly honored to be supporting your team. So we'll leave it there. And if anyone has questions, I'm going to put my email in the chat. I'm just going to tell you now, I'm pretty slow getting back on email. So just give me a couple days, but that's in there as well. So Ryan, thanks a bunch. We have a ton of mutual customers, like I said, in our community group that we run, the Pitch Pro Movement. There's a ton of folks. Literally, I was just trending into the whole discussion about SumoQuote. And the main pain point, by the way, that people are trying to solve is I can't get my team to reliably upsell. They're not asking. There's confusion on pricing. They don't know how to bill for it. And it as you put it, story brand, Donald Miller, when you confuse, you lose. And that was the main reason that it came up. And the thread exploded with, I use SumoQuote, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And it's better than the tool that's built into my CRM. So I just wanted to share that with you.
I appreciate that. Well, and I know, like, from the data that we've got, the average quote, like we had over $1 billion of contracts signed in SumoQuote last year. The average quote that went out, the average one came back with almost $2,100 worth of upgrades selected on it. And quick story, like back in the day when we didn't have SumoQuote, but we kind of had a prototype like it, and we would send stuff out. We had just the quote, and then we had the upgrades, and we would offer a class 3 shingle as an upgrade and a class 4 shingle, and then this, ridge venting and whatever else, 4 or 5 things. The one homeowner went through and checked off everything, and we had to go back to him and say, hey, no, I'm sorry, we can't install a class 3 shingle and a class 4 shingle. Those were like one or the other kind of thing. And he was like, oh, I just wanted a really good roofing system, so I just checked everything off. Like, you would blow your mind how much you can gain in upgrades just by offering it as a part of the conversation. Like, people will sign and pick stuff. You are giving away so much if you don't have it in there. So
you can't sell out of your own pocket.
Yeah.
You can't sell out of your own pocket.
Yeah.
You gotta give people options and let them decide.
No, exactly. Well, and then we will be sending out a recording of the webinar and access to the samples that I walked you through. So if you're trying to figure out, great, I saw those. Now what do I do with it? We'll send that out to you. If you reply to that, insurance, please. We're polite Canadians, so we always throw please on stuff. You'll get your CSM reaching back to you to be able to help upload some of those templates for you. So that's great. And a bit of a sneak peek type of thing here. A bunch of those marketing pages that I showed you on whether it's the insurance process or the warranty or a bunch of those, we've actually got a way now where we've got about 50 to 60 custom marketing pages that we're going to make simple for our users to be able to add their logo and their design and their colors and be able to start dropping those into their presentation. It's this really crazy, awesome thing that we're going to be sending out next couple of weeks. So keep your eyes open for that as well. But that's great. So, and Sean, I see the insurance, please. And Jim, I love the politeness there. Thank you for that. When we send the email, please reply to the email. So that's where we'll be tracking it and then getting everything taken care of for you. So thank you, everybody, though. Adam, anything to add at the end here?
Yeah. No, I just want to say thank you all for joining us. I know that especially in the busy time, sometimes we need to slow down to speed up, and the little golden nuggets that you might grab, whether it's this webinar or any other webinar, when you apply those, they have a massively compounding effect. And these skills are wildly high leverage. One nugget can make a really significant impact in your income this week, this month, the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. So it means a lot to me. I know, Ryan, I know it means a lot to you, for you all joining us today. So thank you all, and hope you guys have your absolute best season yet.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Take care.
See ya.